The town of Hollow Creek was infamous for its dense fog, which uninvitingly crept through every street and alleyway during the night. But there was a deeper, more sinister reason why residents locked their doors tight and pulled their curtains closed at sundown. It was said that the old mill, abandoned decades ago, was haunted. Those who dared to venture near would speak of whispers in the wind and shadows that seemed to follow them. But the most terrifying tale was about the Silent Watcher. Emily, a curious teenager with an affinity for the supernatural, couldn't resist the lure of the old mill. One fateful evening, she decided to explore it. Armed with a flashlight and her phone, she slipped away from her house and made her way through the fog. The entrance to the mill was foreboding, its large wooden doors hanging ajar. With a deep breath, Emily stepped inside. The air was thick with dust and the scent of decay. Her flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing old machinery and piles of forgotten tools. As she ventured deeper, she began to hear faint, almost imperceptible whispers. They seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. She chalked it up to the wind and continued her exploration. Her eyes fell upon a flight of wooden stairs leading up to a loft. Intrigued, she climbed them cautiously. At the top, she found a small room littered with old furniture and newspapers. In the corner stood a large antique mirror, its surface covered in a thick layer of grime. She wiped away some of the dirt to see her reflection, but what she saw made her blood run cold. Standing behind her in the reflection was a figure. Tall and shadowy, it had no distinguishable features except for its gleaming red eyes. Emily spun around, but the room was empty. Heart pounding, she turned back to the mirror. The figure was still there, silently watching her. Panic set in, and she ran down the stairs, not caring about the noise. She had to get out, had to escape. As she reached the bottom, the whispers grew louder and more distinct. They were chanting something, but she couldn't understand the words. With trembling hands, she pushed against the heavy doors, but they wouldn't budge. It was as if an unseen force was holding them shut. She turned and saw the figure again, this time standing at the top of the stairs, slowly descending. Its eyes bored into hers, paralyzing her with fear. Desperate, Emily closed her eyes and screamed for help. The chanting reached a crescendo, and she felt the air around her grow colder. Suddenly, the heavy doors burst open, and she was thrown outside. She scrambled to her feet and ran back to town, not daring to look back. When she finally reached home, she collapsed on the porch, sobbing and gasping for breath. The Silent Watcher had let her go, but the memory of those red eyes haunted her. From that night on, Emily never spoke of what she saw in the old mill, but she wasn't the same. She became withdrawn, always keeping her curtains closed and her doors locked tight, as if she knew that the Silent Watcher might one day come for her. And in Hollow Creek, the fog continued to roll in every night, shrouding the town in its eerie embrace, while the old mill stood as a silent sentinel, keeping its dark secrets and waiting for the next brave or foolish soul to venture inside.